Hey everyone, welcome to the Self Leadership Lab, a place where we learn, discover, and investigate ways to better lead our lives. For those of you who have been a listener for a while, you know, this past week I changed my podcast name from the Easy Hard versus Hard to the Self Leadership Lab. And I tell you what, while a name change is something that seems pretty insignificant, the name change created a week for me that really challenged my beliefs on self-leadership and retaught me or even taught me some things that I previously hadn't understood or known about self-leadership. And that's what I want to talk to you all about today, because we're on this podcast and we talk about self-leadership. We talk about choosing work that actually matters. And we talk about all the things that I learned over the past 5 years. And I've told you before that sometimes even I struggle in this journey. And this week was a pure struggle. I was pushing too hard. I was a little bit stressed about the name change, how I was going to take the direction of the show. I started listening to some outside influences, and I just was overwhelmed. In fact, it took me a long time to piece this episode together about what I wanted to talk about. So today is a very heartfelt, and I'm going to kind of be a little vulnerable and open up kind of what I went through this week. But I tell you what, I'm so grateful that I went through this week, because sometimes when you're in a void and you can't put things together, the beauty of it is when it all comes together. So I woke up this morning and it was all clear. The path was clear about what I wanted to talk about, kind of synthesized everything that I had learned over the past week. So I'm going to give you 5 points today on what I learned about self-leadership. Okay. So the first one today is self-leadership is choosing yourself in the middle of emotions. And I've talked about emotions. I've written about emotions, how they're fake. They're kind of, here today, gone tomorrow. A lot of hype, a lot of, just good feelings that you get at the time, right? And it's the same as motivation. Motivation's here today, gone tomorrow. So you can't rely on emotions. But yet this week, I was guilty of it. I was caught up in the emotions. I was caught up in what I wanted to do. And I didn't take time to notice myself, my inner world, what I could control, my thoughts, my feelings, my actions. I was so overwhelmed with this name change and kind of changing the direction of something that I've been on over the past few months that I got caught up in pushing too hard and trying too hard. And I lost sight of my emotional self. I let it take over what I was doing. I let it kind of drive my purpose for the week, and it left me in a really bad place. And it's, this was all created by me. To the outside observer, sure, it's just a name change. To those around me, they know what my message is. They know what my purpose is in this whole podcast, and that's to help others not fall into the trap I'm at. But you know what? I didn't believe that this week. I had lost sight of that this week. So once you lose sight of your inner self, and we talked about this with Ken Davenport a couple episodes ago about the Stoic philosophy, control what you can. Well, this week, I was trying to control things that I couldn't control, but yet at the same time, I have complete control over this. And I had lost sight of that. I let the fear, the anxieties, the insecurities of what I was trying to do overwhelm me. So don't lose sight of yourself. That is the key to everything. It's the work that matters to you. And this work does matter to me. But yet for a moment, I let it get away and learned a valuable lesson in the process. So I'm super grateful for that. So that leads me to the second thing I learned. And that is purpose always doesn't feel good. Okay, so as I mentioned, I knew what my purpose is. I know what I want to do. But this week, it didn't feel good. It felt challenging. It felt like I couldn't come up with something to talk about, or that I was even an imposter about why would anyone want to listen to me about self-leadership when I'm struggling so hard with leading myself this week. So purpose sometimes doesn't feel good, but you got to sit back and just observe it. Just let it be. Don't let your emotions overrun you as I did. Just take time and know that if your purpose is what it is, sometimes it's not always great. It's like, sometimes you go to the gym and everything feels wonderful. Other days you go there and everything feels heavy and you feel sluggish and you don't feel like you're in the groove. Well, that's what happened to me this week. I wasn't in the groove for much of the week, and the purpose didn't feel good. And that leads to maybe even questioning your purpose. Well, if you've read my book, one of the things I say is don't analyze yourself too often. And that was a valuable lesson this week for me because I knew what my purpose was. I knew I didn't need to go back and redraw it or whatever. I just had to figure out where I was at this moment in time. And that purpose, while it was a little bit uncomfortable this week, it eventually panned out. And it took me to a place where I am today. And in that regards, and the purpose, being a little bit uncomfortable, led me to the third point that I thought of this morning, is that you can only control what you can control. And I was this week trying to control so many things that I couldn't. I was looking 6, 10, 12 months down the road. I wasn't looking at here, now, today, this week, this episode. And a lot of times there's a lot of things out of your control, even in, making a podcast. Technology fails, or you can't come up with an idea, or lighting's bad. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can't control. But what I can control is where my heart is and the message that I want to put out. And, this again, control your thoughts, control your actions, control your behaviors. And I failed at that this week for most of the week. And it influenced my mood. It influenced a lot of things. And there were a lot of great things going on this week. It was Thanksgiving, spent some great time with friends, family. Everyone that was around me was just positive, full of excitement and joy. And I tell you what, I missed out a little bit on that because I wasn't controlling what I could control. And I wasn't able to come to these events as present as I would have liked to be. And as we all know, for me, self-leadership journey is to be more present, to be more aware of what's going on around me, and be a light, be a vessel for others, but more importantly, be a vessel for myself. I missed that this week, but what a great reminder to control what we can control. And that leads me to the fourth point that I learned this week. See yourself as God sees you. If we lose our control, if we, give it to someone else, or let our thoughts, emotions take over us, our insecurities, our fears, we stop seeing who we are. And who we are is someone that God created, a person that is unique. No one will ever be the same. A person that is out here to do a mission, to do good, promote. But once you let all these other things that we talked about earlier creep into your life, you stop losing sight of that. I've talked a lot about the ability to love yourself. Fortunately, I still love myself this week, even like myself, but I was a little bit frustrated with myself this week. I didn't really understand why I was seeing myself in a different light than I had the past few months, especially in this great holiday season full of joy. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite. The food, just the whole environment is great. But yet I allowed myself not to see myself as someone who enjoyed that as much as I normally did. And it impacted my world. And I tell you, I'm so glad that I'm at this point, because prior to this, it would have probably put me in a tailspin. This is where I probably would have stopped filming an episode, even though I did. I'd done so many and I've been on this rhythm. I can see how people quit, and I can kind of gain some more empathy to others, because I'm beyond just looking at myself and trying to figure out what I'm doing, because I was aware of it. And I was like, okay, well, I need to start seeing myself as God sees me. And you can do this in many ways. Take a walk in nature, read a passage, read, a poem, anything that brings you back to center. But just remember, you are a beautiful creature and God created you for a purpose. Make sure you don't let anything interfere with that. And then that leads me to my last point, and probably one of the most important points about the whole self-leadership journey. Self-leadership is a path. It takes time. It's not a moment. So this week was just a moment. It doesn't define what I do going forward. It doesn't taint what I did, previously. But it only does this if I recognize it as a moment, that I am self-aware enough to know that, hey, this is just a little detour in the road. Maybe there was a sinkhole and we had to divert a little bit of a detour this week. But any kind of change, any kind of betterment is going to take time. You don't get to where you are, where you want to make change overnight. So why do you expect it to take overnight to fix it? Your purpose is a path. Leadership is a path. Healing is a path. You don't always make the progress that you want, but as long as you keep on moving, you're going to make the progress that you need. And this week, the progress I needed was to kind of be a little bit humble, a little bit reminded of the things that I knew, but I wasn't practicing. So what is that for you? What do you need to be reminded for? Are you letting the moment dictate the actions, your behaviors going forward? Are you in control? Have you started to question your purpose? If so, just let it be. Observe it. Let it be for a few days and then move forward. But don't let it define you. Don't let it overtake you. Don't let it stop you from what you're doing. This is not the most easy thing that you've ever done. It's very difficult to make change. Like we've talked about so many times, the brain enforces and reinforces behaviors that you do, but you can change all that. The beautiful thing about the brain is that you can rewire it and re-image yourself. So every day, re-image yourself, check in. If you got to have 3 or 4 things that you just got to read every day, boom, boom, boom. I'm a good person. Whatever your mantra is for the day, just stay on your path and know that you're not alone. We're all in this together, and it's kind of tough. I'll close with this. If you allow yourself to only listen to your insecurities, your fears, your anxiety, you'll start believing that that's who you are. But you are more than that. You're more than your lowest moment. Once you can realize that, you're going to make the progress. You're going to start seeing yourself in a better light. I had to relearn that this week. I hope you don't have to, but this can just serve as a reminder that if you ever get in that place, just take a moment, observe, reflect, and keep moving forward. I'd like to ask you one thing. If this episode resonated with you, or you know someone who needs to hear it, please share it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'll be frank with you on this whole subscribe and call to actions that all podcasters and people give. It's something I've been struggling with because I don't want this to be a sales pitch, right? But I do realize something. In order to get the message out, we do need subscriptions because it puts you up higher in the algorithm, especially with a name change. So I don't feel bad about asking it, but please don't feel obligated to. I just want to get this into the hands of as many people as possible because, like I said, I've struggled for so long. This week was a minor setback. Please don't let this happen to you. Don't let it happen to your friends. Whatever we need to give the message, and give me a comment. Give me something else you want to talk about. If this isn't resonating with you, please let me know because we're reshaping this whole thing. And I want this to be a community, and I want to give you all, I want to research. I want to do all the things that we can do within this new platform to better everyone's life and to promote the idea of self-leadership, because if we can't lead ourselves, we're sure not going to be able to lead others. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. Again, I hope you had a blessed Thanksgiving and you're looking forward to the holiday season upcoming. Until next time, I'm Bobby Shelton. Keep leading yourselves and finding ways to find the work that matters in your life.